Hi everyone, it's Helen Horta here, founder of Form Help, and we are going to go over the Digital Passenger Declaration, frequently asked questions. Okay, so we'll go with the first one. So these are the general FAQs. Okay, so the first question is, what is a DPD? So the Digital Passenger Declaration, or the DPD, captures your contact details in Australia, your flight details, your travel history, your vaccination information, your quarantine requirements, and your health status prior to entering Australia. Now, the information provided in a DPD assists the Australian government to manage health and safety measures, and more information is available on the website, so see the Digital Passenger Declaration. Now, who should submit a DPD? Now, before travelling to Australia, all passengers travelling by air should submit a DPD unless they are a flight crew member. Now, parents and guardians should complete a declaration for any children under 16 years of age, and anyone who is 16 years old or over can create their own DPD account to complete their own declaration. Now, passengers can complete multiple declarations using the same account. So parents and guardians can include declarations for children under 16 years of age on their DPD account. Now, only one travelling parent or guardian needs to include the dependents. For example, a dependent's declaration is not required on both parents or guardians' accounts. So if husband and wife are travelling together, they've got 5 children, all under 16, only one of the parents needs to include their dependents on their account. And travellers who are transiting Australia to another destination also need to complete a DPD. So anybody transiting through Australia, yes, you do need to complete a DPD. When should I submit a DPD? Now, you can start a DPD 7 days before your flight, but you can only submit a DPD within 72 hours before departure. So when you did the ATD, you could apply and submit that application within 7 days. However, with the DPD, you can fill it out 7 days before your flight, but you can't actually submit it until 72 hours before you depart. Now, this is because the health declaration or the vaccination and COVID-19 test is only unlocked 3 days before your flight, okay? Now, if you are entering state and territory hotel quarantine on arrival in Australia, you should complete the trip, identity and quarantine sections between 7 days and 72 hours of your arrival in Australia. Will the DPD recognise COVID vaccination certificates issued outside of Australia? Now, passengers with international vaccine certificates can manually enter their vaccination details in the DPD. Now, for those passengers who have a secure international COVID vaccination certificate generated by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia, the DPD will recognise this certificate. Now, for further information on the international COVID vaccination certificate, you can visit the serviceaustralia.gov.au COVID vaccine proof website, and I will place any of the links that I bring up in this video. I will put those links in the description box below. So the website includes the contact number for seeking assistance from overseas. Yay! Because I know a lot of people did have trouble trying to find a overseas contact number. So there you go, there is one. Now, what languages are available for the DPD? So the DPD is available in English only at this stage. So that's very unfortunate for those whose first language is not English. However, it does state that at this stage it's only in English. So maybe in the near future, they may have other languages available. Now, note you must include your free text answers in English, okay? Now, what do I do once I've submitted my DPD? Now, once you submit a DPD, you will receive an email or text message depending on your preferred method of contact. So there is an option in there. So they've got an option of whether you want to be contacted via email or text message. And depending on which preferred method you've chosen, that's how they will contact you. So again, sorry, I'll read that again. So once you submit a DPD, you will receive an email or text message with details of your DPD summary page. You will need to bring your DPD summary page either electronically or hard copy, along with your COVID-19 vaccination record or acceptable proof that you cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons and a negative COVID-19 test result within required timeframes. And that's to show the airline staff at check-in. And you will also need to show this information to Australian Border Force officers once you arrive in Australia. Now for me, when it comes to the DPD summary page, just to be on the safe side, and maybe it's because I'm old school, I would probably still take a hard copy version of all those things, like my vaccination record, the summary, the DPD summary page. Yes, I would actually have a hard copy of those in my bag, ready to go just in case my phone doesn't work or whatever. Okay, but that's up to you. If you haven't received an email confirmation after submitting your DPD, check your spam and your junk mail folder. Now, what does my health summary mean? So if you receive a complete outcome, this means that the information you have entered in your DPD declaration indicates you meet the COVID-19 health requirements. And if you receive a complete outcome, you still need to present your documents at check-in for your airline to confirm your travel pathway. So you will need to provide acceptable proof of being fully vaccinated, acceptable evidence of a negative COVID-19 pre-departure test, a valid visa and travel exemption where required, the summary of your DPD outcome, either electronically or in hard copy. If you receive a confirmation required at check-in outcome, it means you may not have met the requirements for travel to Australia and you need to be confirmed by your airline. So that means you will need to present the documents listed above at check-in and your airline will decide if you can travel. Now, if you are allowed to travel to Australia, you may need to quarantine on arrival. And before you start to complete your DPD, you should check the Department of Health website for details on the important health rules passengers need to comply with when coming to Australia. Now, these are questions in regards to account management. Now, I've forgotten my username or password. What do I do? So if you cannot remember your username or password, you can select the Forgot Password link and follow the steps below. So on the login details screen, select the Forgot Password link, enter the email address you registered the account with. You will receive a one-time passcode from Microsoft. So enter the passcode within the following 4 minutes, set the new password, and you will be logged in once the password is reset. Now note, if you do not receive a one-time passcode, please check your email address is entered correctly and check your spam and junk mail folder. Now, what if the DPD won't accept a new password? So the DPD requires a complex password that meets the following criteria. So that criteria is it needs to be 10 characters or longer. It needs to contain at least 3 from the following sets. So capital letters, lowercase letters, special characters and numbers, and does not contain sequences of 3 or more, example 1, 2, 3, ABC, or 3 or more repeated characters, example 111, AAA. Next question, can I update my account details? The answer is yes. So once you're logged in, select the menu at the top right of the screen, then select My Account. And before updating the information, the system will require authentication through a one-time passcode sent to the mobile or email address provided. And the following details can be updated. So your password, your mobile phone, your landline phone, email address, preferred contact method, and preferred two-factor security authentication method. Why can't I log into my account? Now, if you are unable to log into your DPD, you should reset your password. Now, to reset your password, follow the above steps at I've forgotten my username or password, and what do I do? Why won't the phone contact field accept my phone number? So the phone number field needs a plus sign at the front of the country code, and the format is plus and then put in your country code along with the number with no spaces. Okay, so this section is completing a DPD. So what if the DPD can't find my flight? So check the format for the flight number is correct. For example, NZ103, not NZ0103, or QF2, not QF002. Now, passengers can only create a DPD for a flight within the 7 days prior to departure. So don't try and go in there 10 or 14 days before and try and enter your flight number, because it's not going to let you do it. So make sure that when you do create a DPD for the flight details, that it is 7 days prior to departure. So the DPD will not return a result on a flight that is more than 7 days away. So if the flight is within the 7-day limit and the system doesn't recognize the flight number, you should select the link "Can't find your flight" and then enter the details in the fields provided. So what flight details are required if I have multiple flights or stops before arriving in Australia? Now, I know when it came to the ATD, a lot of people had questions about this part of the process. Now, the answer is, if you have multiple flights or stops before arriving in Australia, please enter your first flight and the one that lands in Australia. So, for example, if my flight went from New Zealand, number 1, to Fiji, number 2, to the UK, number 3, and then to Australia, my first flight would be the New Zealand one, and then the one that lands in Australia would be the one from the UK. So those would be the flight details that I would include in this section of the DPD. Would be the New Zealand flight details and then the UK to Australia flight details. However, I could be wrong, but that's how I'm reading it. I cannot upload documents to the DPD. If you are having difficulty uploading documents, check that the file is an accepted format. So the accepted formats are JPEG, PDF, or PNG. And the maximum size for a single file is 5 megabytes. So if your file is bigger than 5 megabytes, it's not going to upload. If it's not a JPEG, a PDF, or a PNG, then it won't be an acceptable format. What if the health declaration cannot be accessed? Now, if you are entering state and territory hotel quarantine on arrival, you should complete the trip, identity, and quarantine sections of the DPD between 7 days and 72 hours of arrival in Australia. And the health declaration will unlock 3 days or 72 hours before departure. Now, you can only submit the DPD when the health declaration is complete, 72 hours before departure, and this is calculated in local time from scheduled departure. Now, does a DPD require updating if flight date has changed but the flight number is still the same? The answer is yes. The date of departure is critical to the DPD. So if your trip details have been submitted and the date change is greater than 3 days, a new DPD must be created. And if your trip details have commenced but not been submitted, and the new departure date is less than 3 additional days, the existing DPD can be updated. Does a DPD require updating if the flight number has changed? So the answer is yes. If your trip details have commenced but not submitted, changes can be made to the flight details section of the DPD. Now, if your trip details have been submitted, changes cannot be made and a new DPD will need to be created, okay? So just to re-emphasize, if your trip details have been submitted, changes cannot be made and a new DPD will need to be created. Can a DPD be deleted? The answer is no. Once you start a new DPD, you cannot delete it. What if my passport has been updated since I submitted my DPD? So you will need to create a new DPD based upon the new passport details. Why do I get logged out of my DPD? So the DPD automatically logs you out after 60 minutes of inactivity. So this is a security feature intended to protect your private information. Now, to prevent this, the traveller is advised to gather all required information and documents together before starting a DPD. How is my personal information managed? Now, details about how your personal information is managed can be viewed by clicking the Privacy Notice button in your DPD account. And that concludes the frequently asked questions, or the FAQs, for the Digital Passenger Declaration, which replaces the ATD, or the Australian Travel Declaration. Thanks for listening. I hope that has been of some help to those with questions. Hopefully your questions were in the FAQs and they were answered. But thanks for listening. It's Helen Hortai, founder of Form Help, signing out. All the best and have a great day.